My name is Kristy. I'm 57 years old as of 2022 when sharing this story. I'm from Fresno, California. Photography is a passion that both my husband Michael and I share. We have traveled all over the world during our marriage together, taking pictures of some of the most beautiful places. Most of that time, though, spent in the States, as we have a massive country with infinite sites ready to be captured. This story is about a particular journey we had back in '96, in the youth of my early 30s. To this day, it's the most horrifying experience I've had in my entire life. Our son Brandon was 6 years old then. We planned to take a weekend to visit Death Valley National Park for some sightseeing and of course taking beautiful photos. Also, Michael was really into stargazing and constellations. He loved showing and sharing stories about the stars with Brandon. It was February, a good season to visit the park as the weather is much more hospitable. Many, when hearing Death Valley, would probably assume extremely hot. Well, this isn't the case during the winter. We had been driving through the park mostly early and late afternoon, taking photos along stops on the roadside and just viewing the endless void of barren nothingness that is Death Valley. Most often, honestly, I prefer temperate forest and coastal trips more, but Death Valley is amazing in its own way. Just before sunset, we had stopped at a rest area. Nothing more than a picnic table and toilet, but considering that you're hours away from any city or civilization, it's like a mini oasis. Michael assembled a camera tripod as I prepared our picnic. It was about 5 p.m. and the sun was setting. Around this time of season, it gets dark very quick, especially in the middle of nowhere with no street lights. However, on nights with full moons, you'd be surprised on how much of the landscape illuminates. But tonight wasn't a full moon. In fact, it was a new moon, and the reason we came today, better for stargazing and photos. Just as the sun was hitting the horizon, we had finished our meal and Brandon was assisting me with packing the remaining items from the picnic into our van. Michael was steadfast with wanting to get good pictures of the sunset over the desert plains. As Brandon and I finished, we stood near Michael to watch the final moment of the sunset. It was stunning, peaceful, and quiet. Michael then spotted something in the distance on top of a ridge. It was fairly hard to see as it was hundreds of meters away, but it appeared to be a man. "I think there's someone out there," Michael says quietly in a hesitant tone. "Where? What person in their right mind would be out here all alone, off the road?" I asked skeptically. "Mom? Dad? Who is that? Is that a man?" Brandon then joined. I felt a little creeped out by this. The person is just standing there. I wondered if he was staring at us, I thought. It looked as if he was. Just motionlessly standing there, staring. The only thing I can make out is the person is wearing a hat of some sort. Michael started shifting the camera. I immediately knew he wanted to zoom in to see if he could make out anything better. But no luck, however, because after a few moments the man was no longer standing there. He must have just went on the other side of the ridge. "Looks like he, or maybe she, is gone now," Michael said. Though as creepy as it was, we stayed for another hour or so to stargaze and continue taking photos. It was around 7 p.m. and completely dark. The man we saw at sunset was no longer in our minds. Only the vast Milky Way of stars and the chilling bite of the night. And cold it was. So then, started to proceed to our van to head out. While Michael was dismantling the tripod and packing up the camera gear, we all heard howls. Sounded like coyote howls. It wasn't too surprising as they did inhabit the area. Eerie nonetheless, we continued to get ready to depart. "Do you think that man is out there with the coyotes?" I remember Brandon asking just as we were about to drive off. "Maybe he lives among them," I said in an intriguing voice. He looked at me with a disgusted look on his face. "No way," he then replied. "You know, I thought I once heard a story of a coyote man," Michael said, smiling while looking into the review at Brandon. "Your dad's kidding, Brandon. There's no coyote man," I replied to not frighten Brandon. "I just heard what I heard," Michael commented. We then took off, hopefully away from the coyotes and Coyote Man. That's what we refer to him as now, Coyote Man. During the drive back to our hotel in Ridgecrest, a city more than an hour's trip, we were pretty exhausted. We had a pretty long day, and though it was only 7:30 or so, I felt beat. I just remember nearly falling asleep while watching the endless dark desert country road as we drove. It's a big place, and it takes hours to get anywhere. Brandon was sound asleep in the back, Michael's eyes fixed on the road. I looked at him. "I'm excited for a shower," I said and softly chuckled. I then turned my head forward again, and then suddenly, I saw something on the side of the road. As we started to approach it, it was clearly a person. "What the? Look, there's a person on the side of the road," I mentioned to Michael. "Yeah. Should we stop?" Michael asked. Before I could, or we could, think of a response, we had passed him. Heart sank out of my chest when I had realized that maybe it's the same man we saw at sunset. Coyote Man. "Do you think that's the same guy we saw earlier?" asked Michael as he looked over at me with a concerned look on his face. I just had thinking the same thing, didn't answer. I didn't want to. I was a bit creeped out. Michael started slowing down. "What the hell are you doing, Michael?" I asked alarmingly. "What? Maybe he needs help." "We're in the middle of..." "No, Michael," I interrupted. Michael had stopped the car completely and was holding the brakes down while looking into the rearview mirror. I looked back, but no one appeared to be there. "Why are we stopped?" asked Brandon, just waking up. "Your father's being an idiot," I replied. Michael kept intently looking into the rearview mirror to see if he could spot the man. "Kristy, hand me the flashlight in the glove box. I just want to check it out." Just as Michael had said this, we heard loud coyote howls in the distance, adding to the unnerving nature of the night. "Go, Michael. I'm freaked out," I said. "He's just gone," Michael said in a confused tone as there's no sign of anyone on the road behind us. "Dad, can we go, please?" Brandon then asked in a concerned voice. Michael rolled down the window. A burst of cold air rushed through the car. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Michael yelled. We all remained silent. Nothing. Then out of nowhere we heard a faint voice. It was too quiet to hear what was said. Michael cracked open his door slightly, put one leg outside to stand up and peer back. "Michael, come on! I don't like this and you're freaking out Brandon," I said. Honestly, I was probably more scared than Brandon. "Just one moment," Michael responded. We then started hearing footsteps approaching the car. The faint voice continued to murmur, though barely audible. Michael got back into the car, closed the door and shifted into drive. "Yeah, I don't like this. Let's get out of here," he said. Brandon, tears brimming from his eyes, then says, "I think the man wants gold." Then immediately we hear the voice again. "Want my damn gold," Michael said as he accelerated the vehicle. He's saying, "I want my damn gold," Michael repeated. Continuing down the country road, mysterious phenomenon was getting stronger. The radio turned on with a loud static accompanied by that voice. Brandon bursted into tears and crawled over the center console of the car to me. He started crying hysterically. I tried my best to console him. I was freaking out, but I had to keep my cool for Brandon. The headlights of the car started to flicker. "What the hell is going on?" Michael asked with a troubled expression. Suddenly, a thought came to my mind. I reached into my bag and started searching through it. "There's fog rolling in now. I can't hardly see a thing," Michael said. I kept scouring through my bag, then finally pulled out a gold necklace I had gotten as an anniversary gift from Michael. Michael looks over. Without hesitation, he asks, "Give it to me." I handed him the necklace. He then immediately tosses it out the cracked open window next to him. And to our amazement, but also to our expectation, the radio turned off. Buzzing was gone. The lights stopped flickering. The fog started to dissipate. The voice started to fade into nothingness, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Michael started to laugh. "You gotta be kidding me," he said in a disbelieving tone. I said nothing. I stayed pretty quiet for the next several minutes as we continued our way to the hotel. Brandon, now softly weeping, asked if it was over. "It's over, baby," I replied. Michael's fear, I could tell, had quickly turned to excitement, and he wouldn't shut up about what just happened. I was relieved, however, and coming around. "Please no more gifts with gold," I said while looking at Michael with a smile. He looked over, nodded, and safely gotten us the remaining way to the hotel. It was late upon arriving, and we were all beat. We had a long night. Brandon was quickly sound asleep shortly after tossing our stuff into the hotel. Michael and I, however, had more trouble sleeping that night. The haunting memories were tough to shake off. Even to this day, I often think about that nightmarish experience. I've done a fair amount of research, but found no connection to what we had encountered. I often think of that necklace. Where is it today? I find myself frequently contemplating if he still wanders that desert, drudging through the landscapes of Death Valley, continuing to look for his lost gold.
Gold.